In this video, we will be covering all the steps required to update the MTS Pro tracker or controller to its latest firmware. A couple of different ways to do that. The easiest way is to update the firmware over Wi-Fi. That way, if you're inside a shop or you don't have cell service, or if you've not subscribed to our online portal, you should still be able to update. In order for you to know if your system needs an update and to connect to our server to download the update, the device needs an internet connection. We recommend that this be done over Wi-Fi, and for that, we're going to need either an iPhone or an Android or a tablet that can be used to create a hotspot. Let's first look at how is it that you can create a hotspot on an iPhone to get it to serve as an internet connection for the MTS Pro to download a new firmware. If you're using an iPhone, the first step would be to go into your phone settings and change the name of your phone. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into About, Name, and call this MTS Pro. This is just temporary. You can change this after you're done with the firmware update. MTS Pro, no spaces. Next, we're going to go into your hotspot settings. And we're going to set the password to 1234567 Make sure to have no spaces before or after. When that is done, we're going to enable maximize compatibility. Now, this is only for the newer iPhones. The older ones, you should be able to just enable the hotspot, and that should do it. Now, once this is done, we can go back to the MTS Pro and use your phone's hotspot to download the latest firmware. To set up a hotspot on an Android device, be it a phone or a tablet, the first step would be to go into settings and then find connections and then go to mobile hotspot and tethering. Turn on your mobile hotspot and click on the mobile hotspot to create a hotspot with the following name. So you're going to set your name to MTS Pro, again, no spaces, and the password should be 1234567 If your phone has an advanced setting for your hotspot, click on that and just make sure that everything is set to the way we see it on the screen here. If there is an option to enable 2.4 gigahertz, make sure you check that. Again, Androids are different, so your phone might look a little bit different than this. But the idea here is to create a hotspot with MTS Pro as the network name and 1234567 as the password. Once that's done, we're going to hit save, and that's our hotspot. So now we can proceed to updating the firmware on the MTS Pro. Now that we've got our hotspot set up, we're going to go ahead and proceed with the update. To do that, it is recommended that you start with a fresh power cycle. So I'm going to turn the device off and back on. Once that is done, I will long tap the gear icon on the top right-hand corner. And from here, I will go to firmware update. At this point, select Wi-Fi on the top left-hand corner. At this point, the device is going to try and connect to the mobile hotspot that you've created. This can take anywhere between 30 and 45 seconds. So we're just going to wait until the MTS Pro scans all the available networks and connects to the Wi-Fi network that we've set up. So at this point, the MTS Pro is scanning networks, and as you can see, we've got a bunch of networks here. It has found MTS Pro, and now it's going to connect to that. As you can see, it's just making room for the new update to come in, so it's going to format everything. And now we've started the download process. We see a progress bar. And at this point, you should be able to see that a device has connected to your hotspot as well. So on your iPhone or Android, you will be able to see that a device has connected to the hotspot. So this download process shouldn't take very long. We do want to make sure that we don't unplug the unit when the download's in progress. Now that the download is complete, the device will restart shortly. So we are upgrading to 1116. We were on 1115 before. So we're just going to wait for the restart and we will see that the update will be 1116. So that's our update. As we can see at the top, we are on 1116 now. So this is a successful firmware update. A couple of things to note when you're doing a firmware update. Most firmware updates will automatically restore bulk of the settings that you have in your controller. This includes your calibration. This includes some of your control settings related to liquid application or granular application. There are some settings that may not be restored. So it is always a good idea to take note of the following before you begin the firmware update process. So for anyone doing tracking only, i.e. you don't have any switches here, you're not trying to do any controls, go into the gear icon, so that's settings, and then go into granular calibration, and just make note of all these calibrations that you're using right now. So it's granular 0, 1, 2, and 3. This was a fresh firmware, so everything defaults 2.2, but your numbers will be different. Make note of these. If you are doing liquids or granular control, then it is a good idea to take pictures of all these control parameters, including your boom widths. So I'm just going to go in and just cycle through all of these. So probably a good idea to just make a quick video. Again, the system will try and restore as many of these as possible, but if there are specific settings that aren't restored, it is a good idea to have a copy of these. To verify if the firmware update went through, you can tap on the little info icon on the top left-hand corner, and that gives us our information about the firmware. We were on 1115 before, we're on 1116 now. So that's the firmware update went through. Other than that, a few things to note. Even if your device does not have an active cellular connection, then even if you try to go to the firmware update settings, by default, it will say no update available because it doesn't have a cell service connection to be able to find out if it's got an update or not. So because this one does, it's able to tell me that it's up to date. In your case, if you don't have an active subscription with us, you may have to connect it to Wi-Fi and then hit this button here for it to even know that it's got a firmware update available. Also, there's a couple other ways. Again, if you've got subscription to our portal and this device has an active SIM card, you should be able to go in to the VASys portal, and actually the portal should tell you if there is an update available. So like over here in this example, we've got a bunch of different devices. Everything seems to be on the right firmware, but there is a device at the bottom that has a lightning bolt icon on it that shows you that a firmware update is available for this device. Again, this only applies if you are on the web portal and if you've got an active subscription for the web portal. If you don't, then you're going to have to do this process over Wi-Fi. Firmware updates are usually only needed if your device isn't working, or if you received a new device that is not compatible with some of the other devices that you have on the truck. Or if you've received a notification on the portal saying that your device requires a firmware update. If everything's working the way it should, then firmware updates usually aren't necessary.